What is up, college lacrosse fans? You are watching another LaxFactor podcast. This is our weekend preview show. Instead of previewing game by game by game, I'm going to talk more about conferences at this point, who's in, who's out, and who we think is going to come out of each conference and get themselves into the tournament. I'm not going to get into bracketology and all that crap. You've got Tanner for that. LacrosseBucket.com does an incredible job for the bracketology. I'll put a link in the description below. Watch the video first, though. Don't just bail. So we'll get into talking about all this, but first, before I wanted to talk to you about a new product, the Big League Lighting Lacrosse Helmet Lamp. You all have that helmet buried in your equipment bag. It's never getting opened again. You're never taking it back out. You're never taking it off the shelf. It doesn't have to be the fate of your bucket. You can now have your favorite lacrosse helmet and stick turned into an LED lamp. Turn that non-functional crap into a dope accessory. Go to LaxFactor.com/lamp to learn more. We also have t-shirts on the website. So if you go to LaxFactor.com, you can check out our t-shirts. And I'm an idiot because I have a buttload of these shorts left over. So we have these were our limited edition shorts that I ran a couple of years ago, and I've had these just chilling. These are the Rampage lacrosse shorts. Maybe I'll have a picture and I can do an overlay, but these are an extra large and they really run like a double XL. I have a pair of larges left, which is really an XL, and I have 3 pairs of XLs left. So if you wanted to get a pair of these, $30, you can head on over to the website. You'll see a link there for these as well. And I digress. Let's get into this. All right, sorry, it's cold in my office. So even though it's spring outside, in the spring, early spring, it gets cold down here in my basement office. So let's dive into it. I wanted to talk about the only conference that doesn't have an AQ is the ACC. The kicker being there is a scenario in which I think all 5 ACC teams could actually get into the tournament. What we're looking at now is the tournament starts, or not into the ACC tournament. All 5 teams are in the ACC tournament, and that starts tonight with UNC at Syracuse, technically, even though the game is at North Carolina as they're hosting the tournament. This is the play-in game to get into the semifinals. At this point, the teams that are in, Syracuse, Duke, and UVA, they are all locks for the NCAA tournament. I don't see any world in which they don't get in. All of them could lose their first game in this ACC tournament and still get into the tournament. So we've got 3 teams getting in. We have the possibility of a 4th team getting in. I presume if UNC can beat Syracuse and then either UNC or Notre Dame can get a win at least in the semis, that might be enough to punch their ticket. If UNC can make it to the finals, that could be enough to punch their ticket because they'd be getting 2 quality wins against 2 top 10 teams. Now, is there a scenario where all 5 ACC teams could get in via at-large bids? Probably not. What we would have to see for that to happen, I think, would be for UNC to pick up 2 more wins and make it to the finals, for Notre Dame to pick up 2 wins and win the tournament. Notre Dame could even get in if they make it to the finals and lose to UNC, but if UNC wins it, UNC probably gets an at-large. If UNC and Notre Dame make it to the finals and play each other, they could both get at-larges. That's the only scenario in which I think you'd see all 5 ACC teams make it. And the reality is I don't think all 5 will. I think we'll get 3 for sure. We might get 4 depending on how it shakes out for UNC and Notre Dame. We jump into probably one of the biggest games of the weekend in terms of positioning and jostling and all of that crap, and it's out of the America East. Nonetheless, Albany, 5-7, Albany at Stony Brook. Stony Brook's 8-5. Both of their conference records are 4-1. Now, this is a game taking place tomorrow night. It's not Nanticoke versus Hahn, as we would have thought going into this season. Instead, it's Jacob Patterson versus Hahn. Patterson, 23 goals, 27 assists to lead Albany, and Hahn, 27 goals, 12 assists for Stony Brook. The game doesn't mean dick outside of their tournament positioning and sizing each other up and all of that. So I almost don't want to be the team that wins this game because if they see each other in a tournament, does one team get revenge on the other? So America East, definitely a 1-team conference, and it's going to be between Albany, Stony Brook, and Vermont. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes up. Stony Brook right now looking really tough, though, but it's anyone's tournament once it gets to it. But they will definitely only see 1 team in it. I'm going to make a prediction here. My prediction for the conference tournament winner, in this case, I'm going with Stony Brook. I think Stony Brook's going to come out of the America East. I think they're going to win the tournament, and I think they're going to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. We move on to another tournament it's anyone's. It's a mess, and anyone can win it. It's the Big East. A lot of quality teams coming out of it. I think the biggest game this weekend is Villanova at Providence. And the reason that's big is because everybody's beat everybody here. If Providence wins this game, presumably if Providence wins and Marquette loses, Providence gets into the tournament. Denver lost to Villanova. Villanova lost to G-Town. G-Town lost to Marquette. This whole conference is a mess. Here's how I think it shakes out. If Denver wins it, one team gets in. It's Denver. Two teams could get in out of the Big East if Denver loses in the finals. And it depends, they would have to probably lose to Marquette or Villanova, I think, in the finals for one of those. No. Yeah, because I think Denver gets, but here's the problem. If Denver loses, let's say in the semis, they might not even get in. So it's tough. There could be two teams. If Denver makes it to the finals and loses to either Marquette or Villanova, you could make the argument they could get two teams in, with Denver getting the at-large and the team that wins it getting the AQ. But that's a tough one. But my prediction is Denver wins the tournament. Denver is the only team to get into the NCAA tournament out of the Big East. We'll go next to the Big Ten. And here's another weird one. They've got two teams locked, Maryland and Penn State. Doesn't matter what happens. They're both making it into the tournament. Then we've got Hopkins and Maryland playing. Now, I'm not sure how the seedings all work 100%. But if Hopkins wins, they have a better record than Ohio State in the conference. So I think that gets Hopkins the fourth seed in the tournament. If Hopkins wins and Ohio State loses, does Ohio State even have a shot? I'd posit that Ohio State doesn't get an at-large bid if Hopkins wins against Maryland and gets themselves into the Big Ten tournament. It's still possible they do, but that would hurt them. Now, I think that the best chance for the Big Ten Conference to get three teams in is for Maryland to beat Hopkins, for Ohio State to make the tournament, and then maybe even get a win and make it to the finals against whoever. And I think that if Ohio State makes the finals and loses even, that quality win would get them into the tournament in the semis. So they could get three teams in. They're definitely getting two. Ohio State has to make the NCAA tournament, I believe, for them to get three, unless Hopkins wins the Big Ten tournament also, which could happen. Who knows? It's a crazy, crazy deal, crazy tournament field this year. We move on from there. We go into the Colonial. This is a tough one. The bigger game this weekend is Delaware at UMass. Delaware 10-3, 3-1 in the conference. UMass 9-4, 3-1 in the conference. Obviously, the regular season conference title doesn't mean shit to anybody, but Towson's still my favorite. Towson is still my favorite to win the Colonial tournament, but Delaware and UMass are both legitimate teams here as well. I think that this is a one-team conference no matter what happens, though. If Towson wins it, they get in. Nobody else out of this conference does. If Towson loses in the finals to either Delaware or UMass, Towson might not even get in. It's a tough one. If Towson loses in the semis of the tournament, they might not get in the tournament as an at-large even. But my prediction in the end, who's coming out of the Colonial? It's Towson. I think Towson is going to handle their business. I think Towson gets into wins the Colonial Conference tournament and gets themselves into the NCAA tournament, and I think they're it out of that conference. Another ridiculously bonkers conference is the Ivy League. We got Princeton 7-6, Cornell 9-4. Princeton playing at Cornell this weekend. I presume Princeton needs to win and Brown needs to lose against Dartmouth, which isn't likely for Princeton to get into the tournament, into the Ivy League tournament. If Cornell loses this weekend, do they get bounced from the Ivy? Because if Cornell loses and Brown wins, Brown has a tiebreaker over Princeton or over Cornell, and Princeton would have the tiebreaker over Cornell. So is there a world in which Cornell doesn't make the Ivy League tournament? And if they don't make the Ivy League tournament, do they even get an at-large bid? They'll be sitting on the bubble a little bit terrified. I think the reality is going to be Cornell's going to win this weekend and Brown's going to win this weekend, and Princeton doesn't make their conference tournament and their season is over. My prediction, who wins the Ivy? I predict Yale is going to win the Ivy League tournament, and then I think that Penn and Princeton or Penn and Cornell are both end up being up for at-large bids. I don't think Penn has the resume. I know that they're ranked ahead of Cornell right now, but I feel like if Penn gets bounced in the semis, Cornell makes it to the finals. I think Yale and Cornell are the ones that get in. If Penn makes it to the finals and Cornell loses in the semis, I don't know, man. Then Cornell could still get an at-large. Their resume is not terrible. And then Penn could get an at-large because they'd have another quality win over someone decent. So tough one in the Ivy. They could get 2 teams in. They should be able to get 2 teams in. They could get 3 teams in, potentially, depending on how the semis work out and if Cornell makes the tournament. Cornell has to make the Ivy League tournament in order for them to get 3 teams in, though. I think that's going to be key. We move on to the Metro. And listen, I don't want to be a dick, but who cares? It's a pick'em for sure. Marist, Detroit Mercy, Canisius, Quinnipiac, Siena, who knows? I think Siena's the odd man looking out now. They need some teams to lose to be able to get themselves into the tournament. 1-team conference. Whoever wins it is going to the NCAA tournament. I do not like any of these teams for picking up a first-round win in the NCAA tournament, whether they make it or not, albeit, depending on who they draw, the the sun shines on a dog's ass every day. I always mix that up from some stupid movie quote. So the Metro is probably the least exciting conference this season. Sorry, guys, but it's true. I don't think anyone would argue with me there. We move on. The Patriot. Another weird one here. I'm not going to go dive deep into this because there's 4 good teams that are going to make this conference tournament. But if Loyola wins the Patriot League tournament, they very well may be the only team to get into the tournament, I think. I think that if Loyola loses to either, say, Boston U or Army, then obviously Boston U or Army get in, and then I think Loyola obviously picks up an at-large bid. I don't think I don't think that Boston U or Army get an at-large if they lose this. I went through both their resumes. They're not terrible. And they still could, so it's one of those things where when you're dealing with the bubble teams, if Boston U or Army doesn't win it, they definitely have a shot at still getting into the NCAA tournament with an at-large, but it's going to be tough. So because then you end up going up against teams like possibly Cornell or Penn and things like that. And I think those teams definitely get in over them. And there's maybe even a Big Ten team that might get in over them. So to get 2 teams, Loyola has to lose it, I think. And I think that the reality is going to be Loyola is going to win this conference tournament. Loyola is going to get in, and then Boston U and Army, depending on who makes the finals. Whoever makes the finals with Loyola and loses to them still has a chance at an at-large, and it'll be tough, though. Northeast Conference. It's a 1-team conference as well. Again, this is another conference that I would say is pretty boring overall, except I'm excited about Hobart. I think Hobart has a shot at winning this tournament. I think Hobart is likely to win this tournament. I think of all the teams that make this tournament, the only team that has a shot at making a first-round upset in the NCAA tournament would be Hobart, although I don't even like their chances at that. So boring conference this year, except that it was interesting to see Hobart do well. And then there was a couple other teams. I think Mount St. Mary's is in this conference, and they played tough. So some emerging teams, some older teams that have played more solid than they have in the past. So it'll be interesting to see, but no one in this conference is going to make it past the quarters, no chance. And you heard it here. It's not a hot take, I don't think. Last one, the Southern Conference. We've got High Point, Air Force, Richmond, all capable of winning this conference tournament, all capable of pulling off a first-round upset in the NCAA tournament. And I'd posit that this is the one conference where you could see a team make the tournament and possibly get themselves into the semis even. I mean, you got to win your in-game. Then you're in the quarterfinals. And once you're in the quarterfinals, these teams could beat teams in the quarters, I believe, and get past the quarters into the semis. Not likely, but they have the best shot, I think, of anyone, in an odd conference, I would say. All in all, an exciting weekend of lacrosse. If you would like to support us, hit our website up, LaxFactor.com. Buy yourself a t-shirt. Buy yourself a pair of super dope Rampage Lacrosse limited edition. If you're wearing these, you're one of only 10 people on the face of the planet Earth that would be wearing a pair of these. And as always, you can head over to LaxFactor.com/lamp and check out the lacrosse lamp accessories. As you may have noticed, we're redoing the studio here, so we've got ourselves a new wall. I've got the logo, the LaxFactor logo from this t-shirt here. That's going to be on a canvas sign right here, so that's going to be dope. I had a bunch of people saying, hey, why aren't you swapping out the jerseys like crazy? So we just made a deal with Tribe Lacrosse. They're going to start sending us jerseys that we're going to start rotating, and we're going to start putting the jerseys up as contests to viewers that make comments. This is one of my jerseys, but we'll have theirs starting, I think, by the weekend show. We should have their jerseys here. So we're doing all sorts of things, but you're going to see a little remodel go on here. And I thank everybody for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and all of that crap. Enjoy the games this weekend. We've got Cuse and UNC playing tonight, so I will be sipping on some adult beverages watching that game for sure. Everybody, enjoy.